Welcome to Get Ready for H-1B Season Part 2, brought to you by Alcorn Immigration Law. We are the fastest growing immigration law firm in Silicon Valley, maybe California, maybe the world, I don't know. But we support international technology professionals and startup founders, investors, and people's families from all around the world to get visas, green cards, and citizenship to live and work legally in the United States. My name is Sophie Alcorn. I'm the founding attorney at Alcorn Immigration Law. I'm a board certified immigration and nationality law specialist in the state of California. I'm the author of the TechCrunch immigration advice column, Dear Sophie, that is published every Wednesday. And also host of the podcast, Immigration Law for Tech Startups. And we'll be providing resources to you at the end and by email so that you can follow all of our content. The mission and purpose of our firm, Alcorn Immigration Law, is to overcome borders, expand opportunity, and connect the world. And we do that by practicing compassionate, cutting edge, and rigorous immigration law so that we can serve the betterment of humanity. We want to support people to have security and freedom and peace of mind so that all of you can build your dreams. Joining me today are my two amazing colleagues. They are both attorneys. First, I'll introduce Gilberto Orozco Jr., a fabulous H-1B and business immigration expert who I am so honored to have with us. He has a long career of technical expertise in the very sometimes challenging details of the H-1B landscape, forged in fire by the last 4 years of the Trump administration. And the proud son of immigrants. So welcome, Gilbert. Wonderful to be with you again here. Thank you.
My pleasure, Sophie.
Thank you. And I would also love to introduce my colleague, Nadia Zaidi. She is also forged in fire. We are diamonds on the other end of the Trump administration, ready to serve you. And fun fact, Nadia was actually featured in Forbes as a top 5 startup immigration lawyer in the United States. So super excited to have you here today. And Nadia is also your first generation American. So welcome.
Thank you. I'm excited.
Great. We have a lot to cover. It's going to be fun. We have a team. If you ever want to work with us, we are all citizens of the world. We're either immigrants or children of immigrants or married to immigrants. For all of us, in one way or another, this is personal. My dad was an immigration lawyer and my mom is an immigrant from Germany. So we all get it. This is a labor of love for us to support you. And because of our compassion, fun fact, it actually leads to us winning our cases. So by having open lines of communication and the fact that we really truly care about our clients, we boast some very great win rates from the past administration that I'm particularly proud of, where under Obama, about 93% of H-1Bs got approved. Under Trump, that plummeted to about 68%. This says we were winning more than 95%. I think we won like 99%. Our rate of issuance of requests for evidence is much lower than the national average, and we've also had huge success with our H-1B alternatives for folks who don't get selected in the lottery, such as O-1A visas. So very delighted to share our knowledge and expertise here with you today. And we've also had the honor of supporting some of the major universities and technology startups, also venture capital firms, and of being featured in many global news publications. Okay, so late breaking update since you registered for this webinar, and maybe since you checked the news yesterday at the end of the day, but Biden last night rescinded Trump's first regulation that was from Trump's first anti-immigration tweet when COVID happened about a year ago. So Nadia, what do you think this move symbolizes?
I think it definitely symbolizes Biden administration opening up borders again, being a more immigrant friendly administration, we hope, recognizing all that immigrants bring and have to offer, and paving the path to make that happen again.
Thank you. And Gilbert, what do you hope are some of the next steps we'll see from the Department of State on this?
Yes, I think the next step that we're hoping for is for the Biden administration to rescind the other proclamation that didn't allow new H-1Bs, Ls, Js. So hopefully that comes soon.
Yeah, so I think this is a great step in the right direction. And hopefully this order from last night will mean that soon people can start going to green card interviews at consulates and embassies in other countries again. So yay. All right, so we're here today to talk about the H-1B and everything you need to know for the upcoming lottery. So why the H-1B? Why are we here? Why are we talking about this? So if any of this resonates with you or more, you're in the right place. If you're in HR at a company and you want to keep somebody you value who's a part of your team in the United States, you're in the right place. If you're at a tech company and you've been working with contractors in another country, maybe as software engineers, and you want to support them to have a better life and bring them here and work with you in person or in time zone, you're in the right place. If you are desirous to live and work in the United States for a specific company that's sponsoring you, we'll have a lot of info for you here today. Sometimes folks have team members on specific non-immigrant visa types, and they want to support them to get a green card, and an H-1B is a safe intermediate step for that. And others want visas but don't qualify for the O-1A for extraordinary ability yet. And we have a great resource for that called Extraordinary Ability Bootcamp, which we will share more about at the end. But if you don't yet qualify for an O-1A, the H-1B is often a fantastic place to start. Okay, so where does this fall in immigration? Well, this is an H-1B is a visa. This is a way to live and work in the US temporarily and for a specific purpose over a limited duration. We'll get into those details as well. If you are on a visa, then many companies will sponsor you or will sponsor somebody for a green card. If you want to ever become a citizen, then you need to have a green card first. But if you're outside of the United States and you just want to come here, maybe in 2 to 3 years, if you weren't born in India or China, you might have a way to just get a green card by yourself without even going through this lottery. So keep that in mind. Now, the most common path to an H-1B is what we call the student or professional immigration journey in the United States. There's about 1 million international students in the US at any given time for programs including bachelor's, master's, PhD, and more. These students often get F1 visas. Sometimes they have work eligibility while they're still enrolled in school. This is called curricular practical training, or CPT. After they graduate from each of those levels, they're eligible for at least 1 year of OPT, optional practical training, if they haven't used a strange little exception and did it before they graduated. And then for folks who have a degree in science, technology, engineering, or mathematics, the STEM fields, they might be eligible for an additional 2-year OPT extension beyond the original 1 year. And for anybody who's contemplating whether to go back to school, please know that there's been a recent movement in MBA programs to redesignate as STEM degrees to allow their graduates to get this additional 2 years of OPT by including classes like data analytics. So that's an exciting development for international students. So when folks are getting a job on OPT and STEM OPT, they're hoping that their companies will then put them in the lottery every year until they get selected for an H-1B. And then they're hoping that once they have an H-1B, the company will put them through the standard green card process, and potentially one day, if they want, they can apply for citizenship. There are many ways to get green cards. Here we will touch a tiny bit at the end about business and family green cards, with also a brief update about the new Biden proposed immigration legislation. There's also an annual green card lottery for people with citizenship in countries that have low levels of migration to the United States. Okay, so for H-1B basics, I would love to turn this over to you, Nadia. So in a nutshell, what is an H-1B?
So an H-1B is a type of visa, as you mentioned before, which is for people that have a minimum of a bachelor's degree, or if not a bachelor's degree, then the required work experience that would equal a bachelor's degree in a specialty occupation. And then they also need to be paid the wage that is determined by the Department of Labor, and that wage is based on the geographic location of where they work and what type of work they will be doing.
Okay, wonderful. And why is there a lottery?
So a lot of people want H-1B, and Congress has limited how many there are available. So there's 65,000 regular H-1Bs. By regular, we mean for people with a minimum of a bachelor's degree. And there's 20,000 advanced degree H-1Bs available to those that have a master's degree. And so, as I said, the demand is very high. So there's a lottery.
Okay, wonderful. And is there any geographic or citizenship requirement for people to qualify for H-1Bs?
There is not. There is not. There are H-1B alternatives for people from certain places, such as Singapore, Australia, but there's no requirement that you have to be from there.
So the fact that there's a lot of people in the US who are from India and on H-1B, it doesn't mean that, like, if you're an Indian citizen, you have a higher chance of being selected in the lottery or anything like that, right?
That's correct.
Okay. And then another commonly asked question is, do I have a better chance of getting selected if I'm physically in the United States versus in another country?
I do not think so, no.
Correct. Yeah. Okay, great. Can you tell us a little bit about the timing of H-1Bs and how that works out?
Yeah, so we'll go through when the lottery happens and when the government adjudicates cases. But the start date of someone who is selected in the lottery and then approved for an H-1B is October 1st of each year. And for those that are on OPT and their H-1B is filed on their behalf while they're on their OPT, they get something called cap gap. So that means that they can stay in the United States after their OPT ends while they're waiting for that October 1st start date for the H-1B. And then the total duration for an H-1B is 6 years, but it's approved for 3 years initially, and then it can be extended after that.
Excellent. And usually, just due to practical, technical, how sausage is made reasons, the first H-1B ends up being less than 3 years.
Right.
But we can extend it. And then, okay, and then wonderful. Yeah, and then for people with approved, who are in the perm process or have the approved I-140, that's when they can try to get H-1B extensions beyond the normal 6-year limit.
That's right.
And I just want to flag that for anybody on cap gap, okay, so if you're on your final year of OPT or STEM OPT this year, and it's gonna run out before, if your actual work permit will end before June 30th, not your grace period, but your actual work permit, that is definitely something your attorney needs to know about if you get selected in the lottery, because you might have an earlier deadline than most people to file your H-1B. Okay. So tell us a little bit about this new world of our electronic registration system, please, Nadia.
Yeah, so this was implemented last year for the first time, and this year, USCIS is implementing it again. So basically, a company an employer can register online, create an account online, and that's the way that they will be able to register their employees who they want to sponsor for an H-1B. So the portal is a USCIS designed platform for this online, and it's for employers to create accounts. Attorneys can also have access to those accounts and assist their clients to register employees. And it's $10 per beneficiary, so per employee that you register. And we assist with that whole process because it sounds very simple, but it can get a little bit tricky manipulating with the government's portal.
And just to be clear, the government charges $10.
That's right.
We have to charge more than that, but we are happy. Okay, wonderful. And I do see the questions starting to come in, so that's wonderful. So just please be aware, this is not anonymous, so keep that in mind. And yeah, sometimes people want to know, can I just reuse last year's registration? But no, you can't. You have to start over.
That's right.
Great. And then can you just walk us through these dates, please?
Yeah, so the dates are a little bit different than last year, if I remember correctly. So March 2nd is a date that employers can create their accounts. And the initial registration period for employers to submit the employees they would like to register is March 9th at noon to March 25th at noon. And we are hoping or have guidance that March 31st is the date that USCIS will make the selections and they will pick people out of the lottery. And April 1st is the earliest date to actually file a full petition for someone that's been selected in the lottery, but employers have 90 days after selection to file that petition. So if you're really ahead of the game, you might have that petition ready to go on April 1st, but if you don't, you have 90 days.
And if the OPT ends on May 15th, we actually have to make sure that you don't wait until 90 days because we want you to be able to keep working after
that.
So
the timing is important depending on when people's OPTs end.
Okay, great. And this is a website that we're going to send the link out to everybody by email by end of week after this presentation, where you can learn about the H-1B electronic registration process with step-by-step instructions. Now, thank you so much, Nadia. And now I'm going to ask Gilbert a series of questions. So I know that one of the biggest questions most people in our audience currently have is, okay, great, we're doing it. How do we start preparing? What do we do? So if somebody has not prepared the full H-1B petition yet because they're waiting for the lottery results, what are some of the things they could do in the meantime to start getting ready in case they are selected?
Great question. So start gathering your documents. For the beneficiary, it would be transcripts, diplomas, resume, and all prior immigration documents. And if your degree is from another country, then obtaining an evaluation for that. Okay. And then on the company side, if the company has never filed a labor condition application, LCA, with the Department of Labor, then verifying the FEIN, and then choosing the job title for the position, brainstorming the job duties, making sure that we can minimize any red flags, gathering company documents, screenshots of the company website, marketing materials, pitch deck, taxes, all those documents that we'll need for the full petition.
Great. And kind of like an inverse relationship, like the smaller the company, the more documents we want to have to prove that they're legitimate, right?
Right.
Thank you. Now, what updates have there been? This job title issue is real big under the Trump administration. What are your recommendations here?
One, work with us, of course, so we can minimize red flags. But two, take into consideration whether the job title will be a red flag for USCIS. Sometimes just the job title alone may trigger a red flag and may cause USCIS to question the position. And some of those titles, for example, are commercial and industrial designers, construction managers, and the list goes on, right? But
And
one
there's
change,
more, like there's more aside from, like, I think graphic designers might also be an issue, right? So this is not
right.
exhaustive, and we have to figure it out on a case-by-case basis.
Right. But one of the changes that has happened recently was that for the computer programmers, under the Trump era, there was a memo that basically said that this position didn't qualify as a specialty occupation. Well, that memo has now been rescinded. So it's opening up doors for more individuals to qualify for the H-1B.
That's very exciting. So we can't guarantee that a computer programmer H-1B would be an easy approval yet, but for anybody who really wants to be our guinea pig, we could try to find out. But if we can, we'll support you to identify all possible job titles for your consideration.
Right.
Ultimately, it's the company's business needs that determine what is the appropriate classification here. Okay, and tell us about, like, what if people dropped out of college or went to a 3-year university in Australia?
It's not a problem. We can get an equivalency for that. So basically, if you obtained a degree in another country, we'll try to confirm that that degree is equivalent to a U.S. bachelor's degree, or if you obtain something higher, then maybe a U.S. master's. But if, for example, you didn't complete school, you dropped out, or you just never went to school, that's fine too. If you have work experience, that can be the equivalent of a U.S. bachelor's degree. So don't worry about that. We can help you.
That's cool. And what's the ratio between, it's like 1 to 3, right?
Right. So, for example, if you never did any school studies, then you would need 12 years of experience to be equal to a 4-year bachelor's degree.
Perfect. Thank you. Great. Okay, and then what about travel? We're still in COVID 1 year later. Are you recommending that people apply for consular processing if they're currently in the United States and have valid status?
Well, considering that it's still COVID, no. But
Okay.
there are some unique situations. For example, people that are on their OPT right now and are STEM eligible, they want to maximize their stay in the US. Consular processing might be an option for them. But in general, we recommend that you be safe, limit travel, and stay in the US.
Okay, great. And so in that case, we have to make sure that your status remains valid until the H-1B start date of October 1st. And but I really hope that the consulates will be up and running by the end of the summer so that people who are selected for H-1Bs and are outside of the US will be able to get their visa appointments before October 1st. Fingers crossed. Okay. Okay. Now, are you ready? We have rapid fire frequently asked questions from our last webinar. So here we go. This is going to be fun. If I can click to change the slide. Okay. Gilbert, do we need to have a lawyer while doing our initial H-1B application?
You don't, but it's highly recommended.
Okay, great. Thank you. Next, Nadia, does USCIS go back to the pool of applications if they are not all used?
Yes, they do.
Great.
I know. Sounds like, because yeah, they do go back, but we try not to count on it, but it can happen.
Right. So if you're not immediately selected in April, if there's extra, what we saw last year was there was a second lottery in July.
I think July, yes.
You might get a second chance then. Okay, great.
That's right.
Okay. Gilbert, how do people game the system?
Not really possible. So with the registrations, for example, one employer cannot submit multiple registrations for the same beneficiary. If they do that, then all the registrations will be invalid and you won't be able to get a chance at the lottery.
Okay. Which I still have a technical legal argument against, because I think that it's actually based on the number of open positions. So I think when they instituted the electronic lottery, they misinterpreted the regulation and made it more strict, but I wouldn't want anybody to be our guinea pig to test that. So anyway, okay. Yeah, and then what some people do is, and I've actually seen, many happy employees talking about this with each other. The employer recognizes that the employee might not get selected with their company. And so they're actually all on the same page about this with each other, that the candidate could get sponsored by a second company at the same time. So I just, would suggest that everybody's open and transparent and has integrity, but those are legal things that are possible. All right. Okay. Who wants to tell us about third-party offsite employment? This has been in litigation a lot, and there have been some wins over the last year for consulting companies that place their H-1B workers at work sites away from their company with their clients. And the question is the client letter mandatory for H-1B filing after the lottery pick for contractors working with end clients under consultancy? It used to be that if you got a statement of work from your client company that was valid in like a 3-month chunk, that USCIS might only give you a 3-month H-1B, and that was really hard for a lot of people. But they've loosened it and they've liberalized it, and as a result of the litigation. So I think it's going to be easier for folks to go this route in the future. Anything to add to either of those, or should we keep going?
Keep going.
Great. Rapid fire. Can I apply? Okay. Gilbert, how about you take this one? Can I apply for my H-1B and my STEM OPT at the same time?
Yes, and we encourage that you do. We don't want to rely solely on the H-1B. Even after you're selected, we want to make sure that your F1 status is still valid through September 30th in case anything happens with the H.
Amazing. Thank you. Okay. Nadia, what if I want somebody to start working for me in like January or May of next year after they graduate? That would still be in government fiscal year 2022, which this lottery is for. Do you have to have an October 1st start date, or could you have a later start date?
I believe that you could have a later start date. Yeah. So it would be possible to do that. You just can't have an earlier start date.
Exactly. So the government fiscal year runs from October 1st of 2021 until September 30th of 2022. So if you're selected in this year's lottery, like I was just talking to somebody yesterday where his dream employee is from India and is in Australia finishing up a master's degree. That person will graduate in May of 2022. And so I was like, okay, let's do it twice. Let's do the H-1B now. We can select May or June of 2022 start date. Mm-hmm. And as a backup, you all can do the lottery again next year. So
yep,
there are ways to do that. All righty. And yeah, back when, we'll see. I anticipate there's going to be more H-1B petitions than spots available because Biden has helped America's brand in the world improve. But we'll see. In years when there was low demand and no lottery, you could just apply for H-1Bs throughout the year as if they were still available. Okay. Gilbert, how does an H-1B for a nonprofit work? And if you have that, how would you later work at a for-profit company?
So if you work for a nonprofit, you don't have to go through a lottery. You can just file the H-1B at any time of the year. And then depending on whether you maintain your employment at the nonprofit, if you maintain your employment at the nonprofit, then you can basically piggyback off of that and work part-time at another for-profit company. But if you leave that nonprofit, then you'll have to go through a lottery in order to work for the profit company.
Awesome. And then Nadia, which nonprofits qualify?
Yeah, so that's a bit tricky. So it's not any nonprofit. So just because you're a 501c3, unfortunately, doesn't mean that you could get this H-1B cap exempt status. The nonprofits that qualify have some sort of research funded affiliation. So even if it's a university, but they have some sort of a grant or funding to perform some type of a research project. So there's very specific technical, agreements that a nonprofit must have that would qualify them to do this.
Yeah, so our first step in doing this for a new organization is making sure your nonprofit qualifies based on the technical legal framework. And we'll share more about what to do if you're not selected in the H-1B lottery. If you're at a for-profit company, we have another workaround for you for that too. All right, next up. Oh, we already covered this. Nadia said the answer is no. Your chances are the same whether you're inside the US or outside the US. Great. Okay, Nadia, I got an H-1B. What's the minimum amount of time I have to wait before I start getting a green card?
So there's no minimum amount of time. So you have the max H-1B of 6 years, unless you fall into that AC-21 rule, which I'll just answer this question for now, but your employer can begin your green card sponsorship process at any time. So that could be the labor certification process, which takes some time. And if you really do have that 6-year hard end date, then the sooner they start, the better it is, so that you have plenty of time.
And we actually have this like top secret research company that hired us to support an Ivy League recent grad. And this individual needed STEM OPT and to be in the H-1B lottery. And before the H-1B lottery even started, they started the PERM green card process and an EB-2 national interest waiver green card all at the same time. So it's really mostly about us identifying what your goals are, and then we can help you find the best strategy.
That's right.
Okay, so now we're gonna pivot, and I'm gonna just share a little bit about some alternatives if you don't get selected or your candidate doesn't get selected, and then we're gonna have time at the end for Q&A. I see that we have about 6 questions so far, so hopefully we'll be able to answer all of those and more. So if you have questions, please do put them in our question and answer panel and not our chat window. And okay, so this is the hack slash backup option slash it's legal. But here's one way that we can support you and your company if your candidate is not selected. And it is through this cap exempt H-1B process, but you don't actually have to have the nonprofit with the research university affiliation to qualify. Private companies can use this as well. And the way this works in a nutshell is that we partner with a specific nonprofit organization that has created a global talent fellowship program. So if the person who needs immigration help has a STEM degree, your company can nominate this individual to be a global talent fellow. The nonprofit will embed the person sort of like as a TA at a university, leading a project for a class for students to have experiential learning opportunities in the STEM fields, where they actually work on a group project for your company. And these relationships right now are currently at US colleges and universities that serve underrepresented student populations. So it's a wonderful opportunity. It's like a win-win-win where your company can piggyback on that nonprofit H-1B and keep your important human working with you full-time, as well as giving back to the education system in the US and supporting students and increasing your diversity talent pipeline. So it's super exciting. It does involve getting 2 H-1Bs, and this is a great backup option that we can help folks explore. As I mentioned, it's currently limited to STEM degrees, but I was considering this for somebody who is a enologist, like a master winemaker, and the nonprofit doesn't currently have any relationships with universities with wine fermentation microbiology programs, but the winemaking company did. And so if you can come along with the university that you know would welcome you to lead this experiential learning, new universities can join this organization as well. So contact us for more details there. There are many visa alternatives. You will all get this handout as well after our webinar in the email that Edith will be sending out by the end of the week, and it covers some of the most common options. Please note there are special visas for folks with extraordinary ability, Canadian and Mexican citizens, Australian Chilean and Singaporean citizens. There are special J1 visas where a researcher can work for a private company for 5 years or do an 18-month training program or a 1-year internship. And there are also country-specific visas based on treaties of trade and investment, where any employees who share the same citizenship as the ownership of that company can also get working visas if their skills are essential. Notably, China and India do not have those treaties, but many Western European countries do. Australia, Japan do as well. We have a class, so if you don't qualify for an O1 yet, don't despair. You can join our Extraordinary Ability Bootcamp. We're live, super excited about this. I think I recorded 15 30-minute videos to put this class together using all of our firm's combined decades of expertise to distill the roadmap for you to become a person of extraordinary ability. This is also a wonderful way for employers who care about helping their employees not only have professional advancement, but also have a faster path to immigration security, especially if your employee is from China or India and would otherwise have a long green card wait time. You can enroll your team in this class, and so they can work towards their accomplishments to be able to qualify for faster green cards and also the O1. And this class also goes into the national interest waiver green card as well, which is a slightly different standard. But if anybody wants to enroll, we have the promo code for you all that you will receive. We welcome your enrollment. And we've just, Nadia and I have advised so many people over the years who really want this, but don't qualify yet, and they don't know if they're good enough or what else they're supposed to do. And this is like an easy way for you to go through and see if there's some low-hanging fruit steps you want to take to further your accomplishments. Anything else to add there, Nadia?
No, I was just going to say I highly recommend it because there's so many people, it's so much potential. And if they just know how to pull it all together in the near future, then they could very well qualify for this.
Just believe in yourself. Okay. Great. And then also, as we mentioned, you don't need a visa to get a green card. You could actually go straight for a green card if they're not subject to these long backlogs. And here's the summary of all of the employment-based green card, most of the employment-based green card categories. There's special ones for extraordinary ability, researchers, people who have like an L1 visa who are intercompany transferees, individuals with a master's or equivalent expertise whose work is in the national interest. I was talking to somebody yesterday and I was like, fill out our questionnaire for your qualifications. He's like, oh no, I'm not, I have no qualifications. Like I grew up in the projects. I never graduated from high school. Like, yeah, but you just told me you have like a patent and this app gaming company and all of these, amazing things that you guys are doing. He's like, well, I have that. I'm like, okay, well, that's what you need to put in our questionnaire. So, and then the standard company green cards are EB2 and EB3 with the perm process. And then there's also the EB5 investor program, which is $900,000 at this point. Okay, and then I don't want to encourage anybody who is, okay, this is only an option for people in good faith relationships with US citizens or permanent residents. But if you are truly in love, living together, share money, know each other's families, have like pets together, you don't have to have babies or share last names, but the marriage-based green card route is a wonderful way and definitely worth it for companies to save money for their employees' immigration. So just for example, an employment-based EB3 green card for somebody born in Europe could easily take 3 years, but if they're married to a US citizen, they might get their green card in 1 to 2 years, and it's about a third of the price. So just a good option for everybody to keep in mind to have all the tools at your advantage. And then our nonprofit, our new website is launching soon. It's called the Community for Global Innovation. We had Berkeley students do this website redesign. We're having University of California, Irvine students build an amazing new app to help international students. And we have Stanford students building a tech interface for people to do their OPT and STEM OPT renewals through the app. So it's really, really exciting. We are seeking donations for capacity building grants, and we also want to get companies involved who care about diversity and immigration. So please contact me if you would like to contribute to that in some way. And then before we move on to the questions, I know this is important to a lot of people. Biden introduced or not Biden, but I guess Biden, whatever, the House, Senate, and Biden have all together introduced their new proposal for the US Citizenship Act of 2021, which would be the first major immigration reform bill since September 11th, when they stopped calling it the INS and made it the Department of Homeland Security. So this would be huge. It is really, really big. I have to like digest things on paper, so we printed it out. It's 333 pages. So I'm still reading that, but there are many exciting highlights to share. The one that made it to the news most is about the path for dreamers and people who are undocumented to be able to get green cards and eventually citizenship, which is such a meaningful opportunity that will affect and support millions of people's lives. For this webinar and our purposes today, I would also love to highlight that there are many improvements that are being suggested to our whole employment-based immigration system as well. They want to increase the number of work visas. They want to clear the visa bulletin out and get rid of the backlog so that people from India and China will not have a longer wait time. Everybody in the world will have the same wait time regardless of country of birth, just based on their category, which would be so much less racist and also amazing. And then they also are proposing that anybody who gets a US PhD in a STEM field can automatically apply for a green card for themselves with no backlog, which would be incredible, does not exist yet. They want to solidify the H-4 work permit program so that any spouses of H-1B holders can automatically get work permits. They're going to protect children and might be good for Silicon Valley and other regions of the US, but they want to do a new trial run for a new type of green card where like local jurisdictions, municipalities, counties could potentially, or regions could like, we need more doctors in Oklahoma. Let's get green cards for 40 doctors to come to Oklahoma, something like that. But maybe in Silicon Valley, it could be we need more software engineers. Let's authorize a bunch of green cards here. And then there are also wonderful provisions to keep families together. So basically, if you already have a family petition approved, if this law passes, you'd be able to come to the US while you're waiting for your turn in line to get your green card approved. They would eliminate these really intense bars that have hurt a lot of families. They would make the whole process easier for families. They would speed it up. They would get rid of backlogs as well. And something I love, it's a semantic difference, but they would remove the word alien from our laws and it would be changed to non-citizen, which, like, I'm a sucker for that, and linguistics and branding matters so much. So it would be an amazing change if we got to call people officially non-citizens in the law. So
Long overdue.
What's that?
Long overdue.
Long overdue. Such a simple word, such an easy fix. So we're here. You can, you'll be getting this whole slide deck presentation in your email because you registered. And I am so proud of myself. We actually have 15 minutes to go through questions. So this is amazing and wonderful. So I'm going to address the chat window and questions that are, I'm going to be using the question and answer panel. And please make sure any questions you have are in the question and answer panel and not the chat window. All right. So let's get started here with these questions. So, and actually we're going to stop the share so that we can just chat with each other. All right. So here we go. I'm working on STEM OPT with the company I currently work with. Let's call it company A. And I want to do an E2 change of status. Company B wants to sponsor me for H-1B. If I get selected in the lottery, can I work until October 1st in company A? And if there is nothing denied about the H-1B, my STEM expires after May 13th. Right. So you don't need to work for company B for them to sponsor you for the lottery. If you get selected, company B has to file your I-129 H-1B petition package with USCIS by May 13th for you to keep working in cap-gap status for company A, at which, oh, I don't know, would that work out? Gilbert, do you, or Nadia, do you know? Could cap-gap cover this individual to keep working at company A if the H-1B is through company B?
That's a good point.
It's a tricky one. I don't know. You're going to have to hire us for a consultation to research that one for you. If it works, company A would probably find out about company B before October 1st at a minimum, if it's possible to do this. So good luck, and we'll be happy to chat with you more. And in the meantime, company A could also sponsor an E2 change of status for you, and it all matters about the timing of the changes of statuses and the start dates that you're selecting in those petitions.
Right.
Thank you. Okay. All right, here's a question about LCAs. So how does the LCA play into the H-1B lottery? Do you need to file the LCA again if the H-1B is not selected in the prior year? And does it matter what wage level and occupation you put on the LCA versus the lottery odds? Gilbert, could you take these for us, please?
Yeah, so one thing to mention, the LCA can be filed up to 6 months before the start date of the H-1B. That being said, if you have an LCA from last year, you could reuse it this year, but you'd be limited to the information and the validity that was in the old LCA. So let's say, for example, the old LCA expires in 2022. Well, your H-1B would expire in 2022. The prevailing wage and the proposed salary that was included in the LCA would be what would be used for the H-1B petition this year.
Great, thank you so much. And I just want to reiterate for everybody that the lottery is not pay to play this year. It is random. It was announced that it would be based on the wage in the LCA, but they retracted that. It is postponed. If that happens next year, in a year would be the earliest chance for that. All right. Ooh, here's our M&A question. If an employee gets selected in the H-1B lottery with a startup company A, and then A is acquired or merged with company B, can B serve as an employer sponsor and file the H-1B visa on behalf of the employee? I think the date of acquisition matters. Yeah. Okay, so we got to talk to you about when this merger is happening.
Exactly.
And for our purposes, noise. For our purposes, it matters who is filing the petition by June 30th.
Right, exactly. So yeah, so we would need to know when this merger is happening to figure out who is the sponsor.
And if company A can be the sponsor, there's always the possibility of transferring an approved H-1B. Usually in a merger, the new company can just assume the takeover, but it's just this technical gray area where the lottery and first petition might be happening at the same time.
Exactly.
Okay, let's do this one. Nadia, do you have to be in the US or schooled in the US to qualify?
You do not have to be in the US or schooled in the US to qualify. You can be outside the US, but you do have to have a minimum of what's equivalent to a US bachelor's degree. So if you have a foreign degree, and you think it's a college level degree, then we recommend having the degree evaluated as soon as possible. And we help with that, with connecting people to get their degrees evaluated so that they can make sure that it's equivalent to a US bachelor's degree. And you can be outside of the US the entire time until that October 1st date, when you would enter the US and H-1B status.
My background noise is done. Thank you for that great answer, Nadia. All right. Okay, here's a tricky one for somebody. Basically, there's either a motion to reopen or a motion to reconsider because somebody's F1 was denied because the designated school officer didn't update the CVIS record and the university helped all the students out. Oh, I heard about that. And then if the person wants to do another master's CPT program as the 180 days pass, do they need to depart and re-enter with the new I-20? What if the motion's approved while you're still in CPT? I think for me, this is where I would need to see all the documentation and we would have to do a paid consultation to figure it out.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. All right, thank you. Next, can we apply for a CAP exempt H-1B as with the Global Talent Fellowship while my company applies for a regular CAP subject H-1B concurrently? Gilbert, can you take this one?
Yes, so we can do the lottery, and then if you're selected, we move forward with the lottery. If you're not selected, we can move on with the CAP exempt, and that way you have a backup option.
Yeah, and sometimes people even want to do the Global Talent Fellowship now to try to get a start date before October 1st. I think that specific program has a 6-month minimum time commitment, but you could switch over to the lottery CAP subject H-1B in the fall. So it's possible to have both. Great, thank you. And next up, so many wonderful questions. Thank you, everybody. All right, here we go. If 2 different companies apply for H-1B sponsorship for a single person, and if both of the applications are approved, will I work in both companies with 2 different H-1Bs? I'm on STEM OPT. It's very technical. Probably at some point, somebody's going to have to find out at the other company. And then we're going to have to figure out if one of them is a change of status or if one of them's a consular processing. A concurrent H-1B is a separate thing. So if you do this with both of them for changes of status and they both got approved, you'd be in a very murky, dangerous area that I would not suggest because you could be accruing unlawful presence or having unauthorized employment.
Tricky.
Yep. Okay,
yes.
Great. Don't do it. Get help. Talk to somebody. Okay. If an H-1B application for me
is denied.
Yeah, so if let's say this person's on OPT and their H-1B in the lottery is denied, could they apply for another type of non-immigrant visa change of status after that? Nadia.
I'm going to say no, because once their OPT, well, they have once their status ends, you can't change status. You would have to do a consular processing new petition.
Okay, so it all depends on the expiration date of the underlying OPT.
Exactly.
Status. Okay. And I would add that just because you get denied doesn't mean that you're forever banned from any more immigration things. There's so many reasons that somebody could be denied, and some of it might have nothing to do with the candidate, like the company doesn't have the ability to pay, or the job isn't professional, and that has nothing to do with the candidate, their honesty, their maintenance of status, their criminal record. So yeah, it might be possible to get another type of visa in the future for sure. All right. Okay, maybe Gilbert, you and I could chat about this one. For a pre-revenue startup that has no paid taxes yet, can you put a co-founder engineer into the lottery?
Short answer, yes. once it comes time to filing the physical petition after they're selected, then we'll work with them to make sure that we minimize like red flags, one of them being ability to pay, if it's not generating income yet. Another one is proving that there's an employee relationship. That way USCIS is clear that it's a US sponsor sponsoring an employee.
Yeah, and don't let this deter you. It is still very possible to get it approved. We just have to be more meticulous with the details that we include. Great. Okay, Nadia, any advantage if you are not a Canadian citizen but have Canadian permanent residence?
As far as the H-1B is considered, no. Anything's considered, no, unfortunately. To become a Canadian citizen, maybe.
Yeah, and we actually, Gilbert, we saw that recently, right? Where the person's going to stay in Canada another 6 months to get their Canadian citizenship and then get an O1A or something, right?
Right.
Yeah, great. And that's wonderful, Ed. Thanks for the additional information. Yeah, with all these other conditions being met, it's definitely possible. So that's great. So we are just about at time. I'm gonna breeze through the chat window, scan briefly, and see if there's anything else that we didn't cover, but I think most of our questions got covered. I want everybody to know, I'll just reiterate, you are going to get all of our information soon. And I see, you know, for the individual who's asking questions, we don't have enough details and we would need to individually consult with you to make a plan, but we would be happy to do that. So to all of our wonderful attendees, thank you so much for being here today. Thank you for your attention and the wonderful questions. We hope this information was valuable for you. Nadia, any closing thoughts?
No, I was just going to say that if you have more questions, reach out to us and consider us a resource.
Thank you so much. And Gilbert?
Always feel free to reach out to us. We're happy to help.
Okay, thank you so much. I think these H-1B webinars, believe it or not, are getting more and more fun every single time. Who thought that law and fun could go in the same sentence? But here we are. For everybody, good luck this H-1B season. We wish you well and always keep in touch. We have a lot of resources we share every month that we're delighted to provide to you. So thank you all. Bye.
Thank you, Sophie. Bye.
Bye-bye.